everyone, it's Darkseeker here, bringing you another Hearthstone video, and this time we are looking at the Old Gods Zoolock. Now, before we get into that, just have a look here at some of the cards that have been lost from Standard Mode following the expansion. I played a lot of Zoolock prior to the expansion, and I did very well on ladder with it, and it was cards such as this that helped me to progress through the ladder. Nerubian Egg combos very well with Power Overwhelming to give you the 4/4 Nerubian, so you can trade into something, then get the 4/4. It's also an AoE deterrent, is Nerubian Egg. It's just really, really good card, and that came out in Exramus, and that's now disappeared from Standard Mode, which is a shame. Implosion, I'm not sad to see that card go. It's very RNG-centric. I would often be rolling 2s or 3s on it, whereas my friends would be rolling 4s and getting 4 imps. So, yeah, it's a decent card, it's good, it can remove things from the board, potentially, but as I say, a lot of RNG involved in it. Lotheb came out of Naxxramas, and a very effective card. It's a 5/5 body, with the battle cry of enemy spells costing 5 or more. Okay, sorry, costing 5 more next turn. Very good at stopping classes like Mage from finishing you off on the next turn, and then giving you enough time to scramble enough attack power to have lethal. Played with Brann Bronzebeard, you know, this locks out any spells from being played because you double the effect. You know, they cost 10 on the following turn. So really, really good card. Is sorely missed, I think. Enhancer Meccano, Battle Cry is so insane. I wasn't convinced by this card early on, but then I saw a friend playing it in Zoolock, and it just looks so good, and so I started playing it. And it's won me so many games. When you have that full board in play, and you put down the Enhancer, and, I don't know, you give your minions Wind Fury, well, that could be lethal. Or you give them Taunt, well, that could defend you, significantly enough that it stops lethal from your opponent, so it buys you another turn or two. Divine Shield, so good for trading on the board. And if you combo this card with Brann Bronzebeard, each minion gets 2 of those effects. So just imagine, you know, a Wind Fury Divine Shielded minion, that's insane. Wind Fury on a Sea Giant. Oh, it's just absolutely insane, right? What is that? 16 damage potentially with a Divine Shield allows for, you know, insane trades as well. So Enhancer Meccano, brilliant, brilliant card, sorely missed. But there is one card in particular that is missed in Standard, more so than I think most other cards. Dr. Boom, or Dr. 7 as they call him, because if it's turn 7, you play Dr. Boom. Right. I know that not all Zoolock decks play Dr. Boom. My deck did. It's just a really good late game threat, in essence. You know, if you're top decking and they put down something small and you put down Dr. Boom, and if they don't have an answer for it, it's game over quite often. So these are the cards pre-expansion that really, I think, helped Zoolock out on the ladder, and they've now gone. So, you know, quite a few of these can't really be replaced. But that doesn't mean to say that Zoolock is not effective anymore. There are some new cards that are helping, and we're going to look at 2 different decks and just see how Zoolock now functions in this new Old Gods meta. We're going to start with Modern Leper's deck, and there's a lot of the same classic Zoolock cards that we know and love in this deck, you know, Flame Imp, Void Walker, the Knife Juggler's still in here, Direwolf Alpha, Dark Peddler, Imp Gang Boss, DID, the Dark Iron Dwarf, there's a copy of that in here too, Defender of Argus, and so on. So a lot of the classic cards in here, but a few new ones too. Forbidden Ritual is wonderful. It's essentially saying, use up your mana as if a 0 cost, okay, use up your mana and flood the board. That's essentially what Forbidden Ritual is. And if you combo that with Knife Juggler, it's absolutely insane. Combo that with Darkshire Councilman that gets buffed, its attack gets buffed, I should say, sorry, every time you summon a minion. Now, summoning a minion could be summoning summoning. It could be summoning imps from the Imp Gang boss. It could be the minions that you get from Forbidden Ritual. It could be playing a minion from your hand onto the board. It's very flexible, is the Darkshire Councilman. And it's a really good card. It has 5 health, and its 1 attack gets buffed up each time you summon a minion. So, some really interesting new cards. Possessed Villager doesn't look very powerful in that it's a 1/1, but it's got that lovely death rattle. It leaves behind a 1/1 when it dies. So, all in all, Zoolock is, it's still Zoolock, right? It's still Zoolock, and it plays a lot of the classic cards with a few new ones. This particular deck from Modern Leper runs Doomguard, 2 of them. Now, I'm not a fan of Doomguard, mainly because of the card discard effect. You end up discarding cards from your hand if you're forced to play it, and the worst scenario is if you've got 2 Doomguards in your hand and you end up having to play one of them and discarding the other. It's really painful. But it's still a very effective deck, and the idea is you're just going to keep playing out your hand to the point where the discard effect doesn't really affect you or matter, because in the ideal world you'll only have 1 Doomguard in your hand as the sole card in your hand, and you just play it and you don't discard anything else. Gormok the Impaler, very effective. I played that card on the ladder prior to the Old Gods expansion. It's a really, really good card, is Gormok, because the chances are with a deck like this, you're going to have board presence. So you're going to get some form of Gormok value. So that's Modern Leper's deck, and we'll have a look at that in a bit. But Jddragon, this is a deck that is very similar, but there are some subtle differences. It does not run Doomguard. Okay, there is no Doomguard in this deck. It runs a lot of the other same cards. Okay, it runs Gormok, it runs Argus, DID, Imp Gang Boss, Forbidden Ritual, Flame Imps, Void Walker, Peddler, the same early game as well, Knife Juggler. But there is no Doomguard. It runs Leeroy Jenkins, and this is the card that I ran on the ladder prior to the expansion. Along with Enhancer Meccano, Leeroy won me lots and lots of games. Such an effective card when comboed with Power Overwhelming, and if you check back on my YouTube channel, just going back a few weeks, you'll see my Zoolock video, which looked at Zoolock before the expansion, and you'll see various highlights in that video of how good Leeroy Jenkins can be. This deck also runs Brann Bronzebeard. Okay, which is insane when you've got Defender of Argus value from it, So, all in all, slightly different deck, but you can get more value from the Jddragon deck, in my opinion, compared to the Modern Leper deck. If we just compare the decks then, this is a little side-by-side comparison. As I said, very, very similar. Both decks only run 1 Sea Giant, which is interesting. I have seen Zoo decks that run 2. But yeah, so Sea Giant, if you have 2, it can become clunky in your hand, particularly if you can't play them and your hand just ends up getting full. So 1 Sea Giant, I think, tends to be pretty good. Other than that, as I say, Zoolock, still very, very effective on the ladder. It's just about getting the early curve, and there are a lot of people who would say that in this new meta, Zoolock is still a tier 1 deck, and having played some Zoolock, yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with them. So let's have a look at a couple of videos now. We'll look at the Modern Leper deck and the Jddragon deck in action, and hopefully after watching these videos, maybe it can convince you to play either one of these decks, or perhaps even both of them. Okay, so we are starting out with Modern Leper's deck here, and you'll notice this early hand is pretty good. Now I'm pondering here, Flame Imp or Void Walker. I'm going to go with the Flame Imp. Flame Imp just is a tad more aggressive. Voidwalker would potentially allow for an abusive buff the following turn and a trade, but no, he didn't have an answer to the Flame Imp, so which means we're going to do 3 damage to the face. You're always scared when you play Flame Imp against a rogue, because you're scared of cards like Backstab, for example. But he didn't have it. So because he didn't have it, well, we've done our 3 damage, and now we're flooding the board. We're doing what Zoolock does best. And there's the backstab. Okay. Now, it's really important that we empty our hand as much as possible here with this particular deck, because we don't want to be discarding cards with the Doom Guard. We have 3 mana. I can play 2 cards here. We won't get the value, the real value from the Abusive Sergeant, because we won't be trading into a minion. But I still think it's worth doing. Okay. 4 minions on board. The rogue is down to 21. Fan of Knives does some work for him. It clears, yeah, it clears a couple of minions. That's pretty decent. But we're just going to keep the pressure up. And we start with the Peddler, and we hope for a taunt. And there's a taunt. That's amazing. Because now my Knife Juggler is protected. He's down to 14. Wow. That's amazing. And look, it's only turn 4. Second Fan of Knives allows him to kill a couple more minions. And he says, well played. Yeah, I think it's over. I think he thinks it's over too. He tanks that with his face. Great. Oh, look, we can play 2 minions again. This is insane. 5 mana. And we can play 2 minions, emptying our hand. Wow. Just incredible. And it has to be over now. How is he going to clear that 4/4 from the board? Oh, Skulker. Okay. Doesn't actually do anything. Because of the Death Rattle from that 1-drop. So, yeah. And there we go. That's Modern Leper's deck in action. Thankfully, didn't discard any cards with the Doom Guard there. Okay, so going into our next game here, and this is Jddragon's deck. Notice Leeroy. So this is a deck that does not run, I repeat one more time, does not run Doom Guards. Okay, it just runs Leeroy. So let's see how the Warlock copes against this particular deck. That was the best result, by the way. Well, actually, it wasn't the best result, because I was going to trade in the Flame Imp. If the Juggler had hit the Flame Imp, I'd have been happy. So actually, it was the second best result. The key thing is it didn't hit the Argent Squire. Imp Gang Boss. That's quite annoying. And I'm actually going to set up... Oh, that's bad. I'm actually going to set up the Councilman, but... Yeah, this is pretty annoying. I think it was worth the gamble, though. And I know that he's going to trade his Imp Gang into my Knife Juggler, so I use the Juggler there to kill an Imp, get a value trade, save the shield on the Argent Squire. But if that Darkshire Councilman can stick... It could do some really good work as this game progresses. It has 5 health, okay? And every time you summon a minion, its attack power grows. Mortal Coil, really good there. Wow, he's going to kill the Councilman? No, weaken the Councilman. Wow, so he's that scared of the Councilman that he put in a trade just to weaken it. Wow. That says a lot about the power of that card. Okay, so the question here is, do I go face or do I trade? I'm actually going to trade. I know that seems like a waste, right? But I'd rather kill off his 2/2 minion rather than him using the abusive sergeant to kill off my councilman. So with Zoolock, it is all about trading, particularly when you're going up against another Zoolock. It's about trading on the early board, getting that board, and then having enough aggression to be able to go face. Well, speaking of face damage, there's the Sea Giant. I'm in trouble. Corruption is actually really good. Okay, so we kill his 2 attack minion. We will spawn an imp and put corruption on the giant. So now that giant will die eventually. He'll probably use it to trade into something on the board rather than going face, which was my intention here. So before his giant dies, he wants to get the value from it, so may as well kill a minion. Let's see what he does. I have Leeroy in hand. I have Defender of Argus and Brann in hand. Will he go face with the Sea Giant? This is the question. I highly doubt it. He needs to clear things from my board, because when that Sea Giant is gone, I'll have potential advantage on the board. Well, actually, now, given what he's just played, maybe not. Maybe not. Spawn of N'Zoth is actually really good here because... Oh, he did go face. Wow. Okay. So he wanted the face damage. I was thinking maybe he'd kill the Imp Gang boss. Interesting. Because maybe now... maybe now I can still steal back this board somehow. Defender of Argus... what does that actually do? Brann isn't great. I'm short of 1 mana here for Brann. If I had 7, I could Argus and Brann and get insane value. So we're just gonna tap. There's my second councilman. Okay, and we played the Flame Imp. We're getting really low. We're at 9 health. That's really worrying. But it's okay, I think, because we have Brann Argus next turn. So we're just getting rid of as many minions as we can, and I know that's just got buffed up, but at least it's only 1 minion on board, right? And I have board presence, so that's really important. He has a Defender of Argus, and he's going face. You see, he is very aggressive. Like he was with the Sea Giant, he's now being aggressive with his Imp Gang boss. But I have Argus. I have a better Argus than him. My Argus buffs my minions for more because of Brann. So let's see what the best positioning is here. I think that we certainly want to get the buff on the Councilman because of its health total and its attack. I mean, if I get the Councilman buffed up, I can kill his Imp Gang boss. Interesting. Brann also has 4 health, now 6 health. So Brann I was debating Defender on the Imp Gang boss, but no, Brann has 6 health. It protects me from various charging shenanigans. So we kill his Imp Gang. It's actually quite a complex turn. That's fine. Okay. And my Councilman now has 8 attack, and his Defender is not killing it, so I think we win the game on this basis now. Okay. It's fine. Okay. Oh! 9 attack, Councilman. Alright, he clears it. Well, what have we got? 6, 7, 8, 9, 15. Is that lethal? No, it's one off. It's one off lethal. So, if in doubt, play the Sea Giant. I don't know if I can tap here. I think that's really risky. So, I'm still thinking about it. The problem, of course, with Leeroy here is his juggler will start shooting juggles out because he'll get the little dragons that come out of Leeroy. So you've got to think about the best way of trading now on this board. This is fine. Okay. So it's lethal next turn if he can't clear. So he taps. There's his own councilman. And what has he got? Oh, a taunt. That's not going to help you. That's really... Oh, it's certainly not going to help you now. Leeroy Direwolf P.O. Time's up, let's do this, and that's lethal. So there we go, ladies and gents, the modern Leper Zoolock, the Jddragon Zoolock, take your pick. They're both really good. Thanks for joining me.